Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of our English Zone podcast channel. Today, my friend and I are going to teach you English through conversation.
Hello, everyone. Yes, and today we're tackling a topic I think we've all dealt with, being late.
Definitely. It happens to everyone sometimes, right? So in this conversation, we'll go over some really useful English words and, the typical things people say when they don't arrive on time.
Exactly. Our mission, if you like, for this deep dive is to help you understand these phrases and maybe even feel more comfortable using them yourself in English.
Sounds good. So maybe let's start with a little scenario just to paint a picture. Imagine a boss. He's waiting for people. There's an important meeting.
Right. And this meeting, it was supposed to start, maybe 15 minutes ago. And the boss, well, he doesn't look too pleased.
No, probably tapping his foot. Okay, so then the first person arrives. Let's call her Joe. She seems a bit, flustered, rushed.
And Joe says something like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, everyone, I'm late. There was just a huge traffic jam on the highway this morning."
Okay, the classic traffic jam excuse. We'll come back to that. So Joe's there, but the boss is still looking pretty impatient. Then his assistant pops in, says Scott is on the phone.
Yes, Scott. And Scott's message is that he's running late. Why? Because his last meeting ran over. Another common one.
Definitely. And then just after that, someone else, Jess, walks in.
Right. Jess comes in and she asks, "Morning all. Were you guys stuck in traffic too?"
Oh, so she assumes everyone had the same problem.
Exactly. And then she explains her delay. There was this huge pileup on the highway, a massive accident. Traffic was backed up for miles.
Wow. Okay, so pile up, backed up for miles. More good vocabulary there.
Yeah.
And the boss, what's his reaction to all this lateness?
Well, understandably, he's not happy. He says something quite firm, like, "Look, everyone, this isn't acceptable. When I schedule a meeting for 10, it starts at 10, not 10.01, and definitely not 10.20.
Yeah, you can understand his point.
Yeah.
So this kind of situation happens, right? Let's break down some of that English we just heard.
Let's do it. So one phrase that came up, though not in the boss scenario directly, but it's related, is when someone says they got tied up with a client, or just got tied up.
Okay, got tied up. What does that really mean? It sounds a bit strange, like with ropes.
Yeah, it does sound like that, and that's actually a good way to remember it. When you say you got tied up, it means you became really busy with something important, something you couldn't just stop or walk away from easily.
Ah, I see. So it implies it was unavoidable, something that held you there.
Exactly. Like you were metaphorically tied to that task or person. It suggests the delay wasn't really your fault, or at least you couldn't help it.
Okay. Do we have some examples of how you might use that?
Sure. You might hear someone say, "Sorry, I'm late home, honey. I got tied up at the office," meaning work kept them late.
Right. Or maybe I was tied up on the phone all afternoon, so I didn't get my report finished.
Perfect. Or even, connecting back to our scenario, "I got tied up in traffic on the way here." It just means something held you up, made you busy or delayed.
Got it. Okay. So Joe's excuse in our story was a huge traffic jam. Most people probably know traffic, but traffic jam.
Right. A traffic jam is simply when there are lots and lots of cars on the road, and they're either completely stopped or moving very, very slowly, bumper to bumper.
So the traffic flow is blocked.
Yeah.
And adding huge just means it was really big, a very bad one.
Exactly. Huge just emphasizes the size or severity. It was a major traffic jam.
Okay. And then Jess mentioned something more serious, a huge pileup. What's a pileup?
A pileup is specifically a car accident, but one involving multiple vehicles. Not just two cars, but often 3, 4, or many more, sometimes crashing into each other in a chain reaction.
Ooh, that sounds nasty and dangerous.
It often is. And like just suggested, a pileup is frequently the cause of a really bad traffic jam. The road gets blocked because of the accident.
Okay. So the pileup of the accident can cause the huge traffic jam, the stopped cars. That makes sense. Now, what about Scott? He called to say he was running late. That's a phrase you hear constantly in English. What does it mean to be running late? Are you actually jogging?
No jogging involved. Running late is just a very common, very natural way to say that you know you are going to arrive later than planned or expected.
So you realize you won't be on time, and you use this phrase.
Yes. It's what you'd say if you call ahead or text someone to let them know about the delay. It sounds very natural.
Can we hear some examples?
Sure. Like, "Oh, Jane is running late. She should be here in about 10 minutes.
Okay. Or maybe you're stuck in traffic yourself and you call someone, "Hey, traffic is terrible, so I'm running late."
Exactly. Or maybe in an email, "Hi, team. I'm running a bit late this morning. Please start the meeting without me." Very useful phrase.
It really is. And Scott's reason for running late, his meeting ran over. What does ran over mean in this context?
Good question. If a meeting or maybe an appointment or even a phone call runs over, it simply means it lasted longer than it was scheduled to. It went past the planned finish time.
Ah, okay. So if the meeting was supposed to end at 10:000, but it finished at 10:15, it ran over by 15 minutes.
Precisely. So you could say, like in our example, my previous meeting ran over by 15 minutes, so I'm going to be a little late for the next one.
Got it. That seems like a very common reason for being late, especially at work.
It certainly is. Okay, shall we look at a few more handy phrases related to being late? Things that came up or are connected?
Yes, let's build that fluency. The first one, Jo, when she called Matey, she might have said she'd be there in a sec. What's in a sec?
In a sec is very informal, very casual English. It means very soon or in just a moment. Sec is short for second.
So like literally 1 second?
Oh, no, not usually. It's an exaggeration. It just means I'll be there really quickly or I'll do it very soon. You wouldn't use it in a formal setting, probably best with friends or colleagues you know well.
Okay, so it's like saying just a mo or hang on.
Exactly. It's similar to saying in a minute, but maybe suggests an even shorter time, though in a minute can also be a bit vague. It might mean, 3 to 5 minutes sometimes. In a sec feels quicker.
Good distinction. Okay, another phrase one Jess used when she arrived. Were you also stuck in traffic? What does stuck in traffic mean?
To be stuck in traffic means you are in a traffic jam and you literally cannot move or can only move very, very slowly. The sheer volume of cars is preventing you from driving normally. You feel trapped.
Yeah, stuck is a good word for it. You really can't go anywhere.
Exactly. It emphasizes the feeling of being immobile because of the traffic conditions.
And Jess also mentioned the traffic was backed up for miles. That sounds impressive in a bad way. What does backed up for miles mean?
It describes the result of something blocking the road, like that pileup just mentioned. It means the line of stopped or very slow-moving traffic stretches for a long distance for many miles behind the blockage.
Ah, I see. So the problem is maybe at one point, but the effect the stopped cars goes way, way back.
Precisely. You can picture the cars lined up, mile after mile, all waiting because of the incident ahead. So traffic is backed up.
Okay, wow. So let's connect those. A pileup happens.
Right, the big accident.
Which causes a traffic jam.
Where lots of cars are stopped.
Which means you get stuck in traffic.
Can't move.
And the overall result might be that the traffic is backed up for miles.
You've got it. They all link together to describe that frustrating experience. Understanding these will really help you understand and talk about delays in English.
Definitely. Now, this whole topic of being on time, it actually makes me think about how different cultures view time, doesn't it? It's not the same everywhere.
That's a really interesting point. Yeah, perceptions of time and punctuality can vary quite a bit around the world.
Like, you're from Canada, right?
Yeah.
What's the general feeling about being on time for, say, a work meeting there?
Well, generally in Canada, for business meetings or appointments, being on time is pretty important. If a meeting is set for 9 a.m., people expect it to start at 9 a.m., and you're expected to be there, ready to go. Arriving late isn't usually seen as okay without a very good reason.
Right. But then you hear about other places. For example, I've heard the term Latino time or Hispanic time. What's that about? Is it different?
It can be, yeah. Again, it's a generalization, but in many Latin American cultures, there's often a more flexible approach, especially for social gatherings. If a party starts at 8 p.m., it might be perfectly normal, even expected, for guests to arrive at 8:30 and 9:00 or even later. The focus is more on the event and people coming together, less on the exact minute.
That is quite different. And what about somewhere like Germany? I have the impression they were very punctual.
That's the stereotype, and there's definitely truth to it. In German-speaking cultures, punctuality is often highly valued. If something is scheduled for 6 p.m., arriving at 6 p.m. sharp is often the expectation. Being late, even by a few minutes, can sometimes be seen as disrespectful.
Wow. So it really varies. Does this apply to the start of the workday too? Like when you're expected to actually begin working?
Absolutely. That can differ too. In some work cultures, if the day starts at 9:00, you're expected to be at your workstation, actively working, right at 9:00.
Okay.
In other places, arriving at 9:00 might be fine, but the expectation is you'll then, get your coffee, maybe chat for a few minutes, check emails, and sort of ease into the focused work, maybe around 9:15 or 9:3.
So the key takeaway here for you, our listeners, is that it's really important to be aware of the local customs regarding time, isn't it? Whether you're traveling, working internationally, or just interacting with people from different backgrounds.
Definitely. Understanding the local time culture can help avoid misunderstandings or accidentally causing offense. It's always good to maybe observe or even ask someone if you're unsure about expectations.
Good advice. Okay, before we finish up, maybe we should do a quick review of some of the key vocabulary we covered, just to help everyone remember.
Good idea. How about I give the meaning and you try to say the word or phrase we discuss?
Okay, sounds like a plan. You start.
All right. First one. The quality of being on time, always arriving when expected.
That would be punctual, being punctual.
Good. Next, blocked so that traffic cannot move forward.
Backed up. Traffic is backed up.
Excellent. How about arriving later than the planned time, not on schedule?
Late, or maybe behind schedule.
Late is perfect. Okay, this one we didn't explicitly define before, but it's related. To sleep longer in the morning than you intended to.
Like in a weekend, a sleep in.
Exactly, sleep in. Next, to become very busy with something important and be unable to leave.
That was got tied up.
Perfect. What about the general habit or quality of often being late?
That's a noun. Tardiness.
Tardiness is right. Good one. How about to move or act very quickly, often because you're late?
To hustle. You need to hustle.
Yep. And the phrase meaning you know you are going to arrive late.
That's a common one. Running late.
Got it. And if a meeting continues for longer than scheduled,
It ran over.
great. What if you're in your car and you literally cannot move because of all the stopped cars?
You were stuck in traffic.
Exactly. And the informal phrase for very soon,
In a sec.
good. What's another word for very big, used with traffic jam and pile up?
Huge. A huge jam, a huge pileup.
Right. And the situation with a large number of stopped cars.
A traffic jam.
And finally, the type of accident involving many cars.
That's a pileup.
Fantastic. Hopefully that little review helps solidify those words and phrases for you.
Yeah, we really hope that going through these common ways to talk about being late has been useful for you English learners out there.
Absolutely. Using phrases like running late or got tied up or knowing what a pileup is will definitely help your English sound more natural in, everyday situations.
And it helps you understand native speakers better, too, when they use these expressions.
For sure. And if any of this wasn't clear, or if you have other questions about vocabulary or English usage, please do reach out. We're always happy to help you on your learning journey.
Well, it looks like we've run out of time for today ourselves. Indeed we have.
But until our next conversation, thank you so much for listening, and goodbye for now.
Yes, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.